discussions. Today we would like to speak about the situation with which indigenous peoples faced globally, all around the world, because nowadays we live in a world when we have more than 100 conflicts and war zones, and 80% of them are ongoing on the territories which were traditionally living indigenous peoples, and of course it's directly affect to all of us. And of course many indigenous peoples living on the territories which are very important in strategic way, which have a rich in resource sense, and of course this is also the purpose of the conflicts with which we faced all around the world. And it's also important to remind and remember that all conflicts and wars, they have several dimensions. It's not only military activities, it's also political wills, legal aspects, and of course the human-centristic aspects, which also are targeted and affected by the affected in the result of the activities which conduct states and other actors. It's not only states who are acting against indigenous peoples here. It could be private military companies, mining companies, and etc. It's very various forms of affecting and persecution and activities against indigenous peoples all around the world. And for the beginning, I would like to invite to the floor Mr. Bariev, and I would like to ask you to describe the situation with which Crimean Tatar peoples faced, because Crimean Tatars, they are the first who are faced with new aggression, with this aggression, Russian aggression against Ukraine, which starts in 2014 with the occupation of the homeland of the indigenous people of Ukraine. I would like also remind that we have 3 indigenous peoples: Crimean Tatars, Karaitis, and Krimchaks, and this is all starts, and Crimean Tatars was and still in the front line on the front line of fighting against this aggression. Please.
Thank you, Ludmila. Good day, dear brothers and sisters. What is happening today is not accidental. It is a continuation of a systematic policy of genocide against the indigenous Crimean Tatar people, started by the Russian Empire in 1783, continued by the Soviet regime in 1944, and resumed by modern Russia in 2014. According to data of the Crimean Tatar Research Center, 10,727 violations of fundamental human rights have been recorded during the occupation of Crimea. 7,166 which were against members of the Crimean Tatar people. This is deliberate policy of suppression of the indigenous people, systematic political persecution, 523 fabricated criminal charges, 278 of them against Crimean Tatars, 77 of them are women, mass searches and arrests. 354 political prisoners are in jail, 181 of them are Crimean Tatars. You may find among them 55 women, 57 young people, 28 elderly people, 10 people with disabilities. 3 Crimean political prisoners have died in Russian prisons. 61 people have been killed, 29 of whom are Crimean Tatars. 29 people have been forcibly abducted and remain missing. The ban of Mejlis of the Crimean Tatar people, the representative body of the indigenous people, the destruction of cultural identity, the replacement of the population of the peninsula. It is important to note that the persecution of directed not merely against activists, but against the people as the bearers of identity and political subjectivity. These figures are not statistics. These are people's lives. Russian authorities use criminal law as a tool of repression. Charges of treason, terrorism, espionage, extremism, and the Hizb ut-Tahrir case. This is a classical practice of criminalizing identity and dissent. This is a direct violation of international humanitarian law. This is a crime against humanity. This is not a regional problem. This is a matter of safeguarding the international legal order, implementing on the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, enforcing the ruling of International Court, the never again principle. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really important to know and to fix and document all these cases and all these violations conducted against indigenous peoples. It's really important not only for the recording, but also for using this information and this data also for the advocating and the policy shaping, and to demand to restore our rights and release the peoples who are still imprisoned. And it's really important, and great job is done by the Crimean Tatar Resource Center. As we said, and this situation is not isolated. It's the common challenges with which faced all indigenous peoples all around the world. As I also mentioned, the conflicts could be different, but the obstacles, challenges, and the consequences they are general and similar to for the different indigenous peoples. And war and conflict, it's not only indigenous people of Ukraine faced with this. It's familiar to all to indigenous people in different regions. It includes Asia, Africa, especially ocean. So we have a lot of, as I said also previously, we have a lot of conflicts and a lot of wars now in the world. And from one side, it could be look like a little bit strange that how it could be connected Ukraine and conflicts in Africa. Yeah, it's could be for someone it could be imagined that it's so far away from one from another. But when we start to talk with indigenous representatives from the Africa region, especially from Sahel region, they understand us very well, because they are faced with a lot of similar problems. And one of the common thing for them and to us, this is that for example, the private military company, Russian private military company Wagner, is also operate on the territory on several Africa states, and they also violate and persecute indigenous peoples on these regions, and not only violate their rights, but also illegally conscript them to serve in their military companies. So it's a real big challenge, and this is a bridge throughout which we also could better understand. We are indigenous people from different parts of the world, but could better understand each other. And now I would like to invite to the floor Adam, and I would like to ask you, please share with us the situation with which faced your people, and please describe more broadly what is going on in the Africa region, please.
Thank you. My name is Adam Kuleto Lemwarabu. I'm from Tanzania. We all share one planet and we share similar effects of conflicts, wars among nations. And particularly in Africa, we face challenges of impacts of climate change, like prolonged drought, and this is causing conflicts of scarce resources in many areas. We also face challenges from multilateral companies, big companies coming in, exploring resources on the continent. And this has been also a challenge. And that is why in 2007, the United Nations came with a declaration of the rights of indigenous peoples. And this declaration is calling for approach when we have projects in our lands, projects that affect indigenous people, that there should be a mechanism like FPIC to engage communities to tell how positively or negatively this project would impact our cultural lives. And in many cases, in some African countries, still there is a challenge on the recognition of the presence of indigenous peoples. And right now at UN, we are now 25 years since the establishment of the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Peoples. And we talk of achievement. For the case of indigenous peoples, this is a unique process and room for us to bring our cases at UN, and we expect member states to help us address these issues in our respective countries. So it is something that we are proud of, that is 25 already within the United Nations systems. And we thank our colleagues for the struggle. The wars in Ukraine, for example, is affecting us as well psychologically, but also affecting us in terms of food, because the food supply chain well started from the Tata, Ukraine, all these regions to the continent of Africa. And we share one plan, and that's why we have this situation feeling that we call for peaceful and meaningful engagement of all parties affected by wars, including indigenous peoples. And this is very important because we have a very beautiful planet in the solar system, and we are proud of it, and we need to see humans living as humans. And we see, in case of competition of resources, for example, minerals, oil, gas, and all this, there should be a benefit sharing mechanism instead of competing and all this, because it will destroy our planet and we all are going to lose. No one is going to win. So we call for humanity to have a heart of human, and also to have a dignity, and to ensure that each one of us live a peaceful life, and we share resources equitably, and we live in harmony with nature and among one another. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really true that we have a really beautiful planet, and we are all living there, and another one we don't have, and we should be more careful for what we're doing and how we're acting. And yes, everything what happens and all these resources and the challenges with which indigenous people faced, one of the reason, and also the in several cases it's also the consequences of this, it's that indigenous peoples often are excluded from the decision making processes, and often some decisions made especially about our lands, about our future. Without our presence on the table, without our consent, you mentioned the FPIC principle, and it's a great principle which ensures that all decisions which made about the indigenous people and can or could affect them should be adopted with a free, prior, and informed consent, and it should be not some. It should be the rule, not the. It shouldn't be dependent on the political will, or it should be something like informal or something like this. It should be it's right, and it should be the principle which never shouldn't be. Destroyed. And in these terms, it's of course it's very important to talk about the self-organization through inside of the indigenous peoples communities, and how they acting, how they look like, looking for this, how they create their own governance systems, and the other side, it's very important how it's organized inside, but most important how it's connect with policy making and with the state in which we are all living, how we can contribute and influence to the political processes. And in these terms, I would like to back to Mr. Iskender Bariyev, and I would like to say more about. You also mentioned about the Majlis of the Crimean Tatar people, about the representative institution, and that it's banned in the in Crimea by the Russian Federation, but last few weeks ago, we received this positive decision in Ukraine, and for today, finally, the Majlis of the Crimean Tatar people, it's an official institution within the legal system of Ukraine, and I would like to ask you to tell us a little bit more about how it was done and which benefit it's provide to the indigenous people of Ukraine, please.
Microphone, please. Thank you for your answer. I am a member of the representative body of the indigenous people of Ukraine, the Majlis of the Crimean Tatar people. The Majlis is the only authorized representative and executive body of the Crimean Tatar people elected by the Kurultai. The main goal of the Majlis is address to consequences of the genocide committed by the Soviet Union against the Crimean Tatars. By the decision of the Supreme Court of Russia on September 29, 2016, the Majlis was declared an extremist organization and banned, thereby violating the collective right of the Crimean Tatars to govern their representative institutions. Russia banned the Majlis on the ground that, according to its decision, the Crimean Tatars had ignored the illegal referendum and election in occupied Crimea. The FSB is carrying out systematic repression against a number of Majlis members. By a resolution of the Ukrainian Parliament in 2014, the Crimean Tatar people were recognized as an indigenous people of Ukraine, and their representative body, the Majlis, is an official body. In 2021, the law of Ukraine on the indigenous people of Ukraine was adopted, and on April 3, 2026, 3 weeks ago, by a decision of the government of Ukraine, the Majlis of the Crimean Tatar people was granted the legal status of representative body of the indigenous people. What does this mean? For the first time in Ukraine, the Majlis of the Crimean Tatar people has acquired both a political and legal standing. In accordance with the law, the Majlis will now be able to receive funding from the Ukrainian budget and all matters related to Crimea and indigenous peoples must be coordinated with it. I am confident that the principle, nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine, and nothing about Crimea without Ukraine and the Crimean Tatars, will be accepted by all countries and international organizations as we work toward achieving a just peace in Ukraine. And the Majlis of the Crimean Tatar people will be a key player in this process.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really important, of course, that the indigenous peoples should be involved on this negotiation process, the process to establish peace, and of course we all wanted just and sustainable peace. And in this slide, I also would like to back to Adam, and I would like ask him to tell about a little bit more about our common work within the global network of the indigenous peace builders, mediators, and negotiators, which was established 2 years ago, during the first global summit of indigenous peace builders in Washington, D.C. It also was conducted in the same time of the UN Permanent Forum, and we declare our declaration, and we establish now the network, and we work sustain. And please, I would like to tell us about this work and about the achievement which we have for today.
Thank you. Tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, we'll have a global summit on peace builders, indigenous peace builders. We saw that within the United Nations system, we should bring in value and the cream of how indigenous peoples used to live peacefully and share with the global community the strategies, the indigenous knowledge of mediating and preventing conflicts and making peace within the global community. So this network was formed 2 years ago in Washington, and this year we have a second global summit, and we are going to make a declaration on Mother's March globally for peace. But again, to continue working with United Nations systems and respective government within the UN system to restore peace globally, because right now there are more than nearly 200, I think, wars globally, and this is really risky to our planet. So we need a human to sit down and resolve issues in a more diplomatic way than confrontational way. On a situation facing indigenous peoples globally, most of the people affected are elderly people, patients, and children, mothers, and this is going to be a double situation among indigenous people, especially in countries where there are wars. So we call for a dialogue as our brothers and sisters, they call in many parts of the world, that dialogue is a good room for us to resolve issues affecting our nations, our communities, our families, and we encourage this approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really really hard but necessary work for all indigenous people around the world, because it should be mentioned and always keeping in mind to all parties that indigenous peoples, we are not stakeholders, we are right holders at first, and we are not just absorb what is going on in the world. We are on front line, we are on the ground of this, and we are the first person who faced with all the consequences which to which it leads all these activities. And of course it's also important to remember that we are not the part of the problem, we are part of the solutions. It doesn't mean what about we will talk, it's climate change in climate solutions, it's a war conflicts, a war restoration, it's culture preserving our languages. We are not just the victims, we are also solutions providers. We have our knowledges, we have our traditional systems, and we have a lot of tools and instruments to act and to promote and to advocate for our peoples and for our future. And in this light, I'm also would like to make some conclusions and to add some points to these discussions about the indigenous peoples and their diplomacy and how we can and already work on the international levels. Some points my colleagues already said, but I would like to highlight several points, and also I also want to illustrate how it connects what happens on the international levels, how it reflects in the national levels, and how it's directly affect to indigenous peoples on the ground. For example, for today, my colleague also mentioned about the ban of the Majlis, about our representative institutions, and the one of the reaction was it's applied by Ukraine as a state, because only state could apply to the ICG. Our state applied to ICG and sent a claim about the violation of the Convention of Racial of the elimination of all form of racial discriminations. And in 2019, the ICG issued a decree in which he call and demand from Russia to restore the activities of the Majlis of the Crimean Tatar people, but unfortunately till now this is not done, and for people to be on the territory of Crimea in the capacity as a member of the Majlis, it's threatens to be persecuted and to be arrested and sent to the jail to 20 years. So this is we have this legal decision, but unfortunately it's don't change situation primarily in Crimea, but it also help us to advocate and to it's add to us more arguments in our advocacy work in national level when we advocate for the granting the legal status by the Majlis of the Crimean Tatar people as in representative institutions. And it's important not only because in terms of some political recognition, no, in political terms it was recognized many years ago. It's more important in light of recognition as in legal terms, because now it's established a clear rules and procedures how the state should act with the representative institutions. my colleagues also mentioned about the law on indigenous peoples, and this law established the demand for the rights and provides the obligate to state to conduct consultations with the representative institutions before they adopt any decision which can affect us, indigenous peoples. And it was a legal gaps when we have this obligation. We have granting this in the law, but because of it was not enough political will to providing the legal status, we are not formally realized this right, because we had the consultations had with Majlis, but it also was in terms of political will. It's not was in terms of legal framework. And today we have clear procedure. We have the rules how it should be done, and we hope that in the future, and when we came to the next year, we also be able to share with our fellow indigenous relatives, with our new achievements and our best practices and lessons which we learned from this practice, and could be and we be able to advise how they should act. And also back to the our work on the international level about peace restoration and and negotiation about peace. It's also important in that light, because as we also said, yes, nothing about indigenous peoples without indigenous peoples, and our future without us. It's also important when we said that indigenous people must be presented or must be involved in these peacemaking processes. The question always is how they should be involved, throughout of who have this right. And all indigenous peoples, of course, we have this answer because we have our traditional governance systems. And in case of Ukraine, now we have this legal ground to demand more proactive from our state that at least one representative of the Crimean Tatars should be included in the negotiation groups and should be in these processes. And we hope that it will help us to achieve a just peace, and also we can share it with these lessons and with this example with our brothers and sisters throughout the world, and then they also could demand from their states and say that look, we have these examples in different parts of the world. It works. It really provides a just peace and sustainable achievement, and we could be like an examples. And of course, it sounds like something in ideal world working, and of course as an indigenous peoples and as members of all these bilateral treaties, we also have the rights to go to the committee using the special procedures, and using these mechanisms and these systems also we are able to protect our rights. We promote our interest, and it's very important, especially in the light of the initiative UN80, when we don't know what we should expect and how it will be done, especially in terms when we hear some terms like effectiveness, effectiveness, impacts, and so on. It's also important to protect the system which was for what it was created, and all and many mechanisms throughout UN, especially mechanisms for indigenous peoples, they are close related with other human rights mechanisms, and it's very important to protect this architecture, because without some pillars, these mechanisms not be able to work. So it also the target and the goal for the indigenous peoples to be proactive in different processes, because it's important not talk about only about our problems. It's very important to be aware of what's going on around the world in different parts and different systems, what's going on and how we can impact and influence on this, because it's really, we have some thoughts that probably we can repeat the situation when some system will be created or reorganized without indigenous voices, and we are again to act and to restore this situation and advocate, for example, for the right to be in room, and not for the not for the ensuring our rights in other terms. So it's really important to us, and it's required from indigenous peoples to be aware, to be proactive, to be included in different processes, and only throughout all these activities we can achieve and just peace and sustainable development, and realized all our rights in the future. And of course our international solidarity with indigenous peoples, with each other, it's really important, because without that support and without this solidarity, no declaration, no other mechanisms never been created for us or adopted. Yes, only when we are gather and we are joined, we can to achieve something which could change our world in better terms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.